I was praying, and I just felt God prompt me to just leave the bed, that cozy, comfy bed, and just spend some time in prayer. But when I got back in, I heard him say these words really plain, and in my spirit. Remember, I was talking about the hearing heart, and it was, "I understand." Everybody say that. I understand.
And how many of you know that understanding is really important?
Right. So when I heard that, immediately I got my phone, and I didn't want to wake him up, so I had the covers pulled up, and I was trying to text.
She understood that would make me aggravated.
Well, he would be saying, "Honey, what are you doing?" So probably 1:30 in the morning later, I finally got it all released. So I'm excited to release it.
All right. Well, let's go.
Okay. So everybody say understand.
Understand.
Understand means to relate, to perceive, and to discern. So when somebody says, "I understand," like I understand what you're going through, I understand you, whatever, what they're saying is, I can relate to you. I can discern, what you're feeling. And how can they say that truly, unless they've been there?
Well, here's something else about understanding. Understanding is paramount if you're going to be able to go forward. If you don't have understanding where you're at, it paralyzes you there. So how many of you remember algebra class and trying to understand the equations?
I never had to take it. No, when I was in school, they did a few little problems in general math, but I slipped out on that.
I don't know how you managed
But
that.
he was a math, that was what he loved to do. So
well,
thank God.
I loved it until I made a huge mistake. I had algebra, skipped geometry, and then went into trigonometry. And when I got in trigonometry, I promise you there was a glazed and glossed over look on my face because I did not understand. I had not had all the formulas from geometry, and you had to have that in trig. So I made it hard on myself because I felt like I could shortcut or circumvent the process of understanding, and you just can't do it.
Well, we've gone to many different countries, and so one of the things that you learn
is that you don't understand.
Yeah.
You
well, you try to learn that phrase.
Let me tell you what Debbie's favorite word was in Russia. It was yini pani mayo.
Yini pani mayo.
And tell them what that meant.
I don't understand.
I understand.
But so even when we got home, if we would say something, I'd say yini pani mayo.
Yeah.
Yini pani mayo. And then, of course, Mexico, we know it's no entiendo or no comprendo.
Yeah. I don't understand. And I had been in Russia and then went to Mexico, and I was getting it mixed up in my head. So I got stopped by the army, and I was speaking Russian phrases to them, and they looked at me, and then it dawned on me I'm in Mexico now, so they didn't understand, and neither did I, so that really got confusing. So
you've had some stories, though.
Well, if you don't understand when you're preaching, and if your interpreter doesn't understand what you're trying to get across, it can cause chaos. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of what happened. I was in a meeting in Russia, and the minister that was up speaking, because we had a huge group of us had gone over. This was my first trip to Russia, and then I would end up going back 13 times over a period of so many years. But I was traveling with this group of ministers, and the guy was up and he was trying to relate to him, and I thought, because one thing you have to learn is if you say a phrase, if I'm preaching with an interpreter and I say a phrase and I keep an eye on them, because I can tell if they don't understand that. And if they don't, I immediately say that another way so that they can.
How do they look when they don't understand?
Well, it's like they'll look over, like if I'm going, and they'll look at me like, and kind of with a quizzical look, and so you re-say that phrase differently. This guy, and I don't know why he said the phrase, but he was trying to talk about, how we have to be committed to Christ in this, and he was saying, we're love slaves for Jesus. We're love slaves to Jesus. And I could tell, and this was my first trip into Russia, and I immediately knew that interpreter did not understand what he was trying to say. She had this look on her face, and he just kept saying, we're love slaves to Jesus. And instead of saying something different, he's going, tell him. And so she spit something out, and when she did, buddy, the whole room, all these Russian pastors, their eyes got real big and bright, and they started looking at each other and talking back and forth, and I'm thinking, what in the world just happened? Well, the only thing that she could figure out to translate love slaves for Jesus is she told them we're all prostitutes for Christ. And I'm telling you,
what did people do?
Oh, it stopped things right there. We had to figure out what was going on, and so I thought so when it was my turn to get up and speak, I promise you, I was watching the translator to make sure that she understood what I was saying.
So in Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico, what happened is to understand, it's not just our speech, but our gestures. So, for example, in Russia, you would often hear the phrase, "Oh, it's a pity. It's a pity." Well, I was and I'll get back to Mexico. I just thought of this. So I was in Trinidad, and I said the phrase. A pastor said something to me, and I said, "Oh, that's a pity." And he came to me later, and he was offended. He said, "I said, what are you upset about?" And he said, "Because of what you said." I said, "What did I say?" And he said, "You said it's a pity." And I said,
"It's a pity?"
"Well, it's a pity."
Like
in
a
other
pity.
words. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I said, they use that phrase in Russia a lot, and it just means that, it's too bad. And they said, well, over here, it's, it's kind of a derogatory term toward the person. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I said, "I didn't know that." And I said, "But thank you for coming to me and letting me know." So I'm telling you, understanding is key if you're going to be able to go forward. And so then in Mexico, we were doing a work project, and we had several of the Mexicans hired that were working with us. So it was lunchtime, and I'm going out and I'm waving to them like this and saying, "Come on over lunch." And the missionary immediately came out and he said, "Oh, don't do that, don't do that." I said, "What?" He said, "No," he said, "don't do that." He said, "When you do that in Mexico," he said, "that's like in the U.S.
flipping somebody off.
If you flew the bird." And I went, "Oh my goodness!" So I'm out there doing that, and I'm thinking, man. I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "You do this." So everybody thought, because that got so ingrained in my head, when I came back to the U.S., anytime I was calling someone, I was going like this, and people would look at me, "What's that about?" But I wanted to stay away from this.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So Proverbs 4:7 says, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding." And so, once again, he wants us to be able to relate, to perceive, and to discern. And
keep in mind what he says. He says, with all you're getting,
yes,
get understanding. To understand is vital. And you can't just throw it off. You can't just say, "Well, I don't know what they meant by that." You have to understand. And you know that, friction can come into families, and I mean, devastate relationships if we're not understanding each other. So it's important for us to have open communication. I understand you, honey.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the time.
That's good. Just wanted to clear that up. Okay, so have you ever felt misunderstood? Put your thumbs up if you've ever felt that way. Have you ever felt misunderstood? Or maybe not even understanding yourself sometimes. It's like, why did I do that? But I love this. Psalms 19:12 says, "Who can understand his errors?" Even sometimes we may experience something and it'd be like, I don't even understand why I did that, or, But one thing you have to know is God understands you perfectly.
Absolutely.
And he loves you unconditionally. He does. He understands us, but yet he loves us unconditionally. So I love Psalms 139:3 says, "You compass my path." David speaking this to God. "You compass my path and my lying down, and you're acquainted with all my ways." He is. He knows our uprisings, our downsettings. He knows everything about us. So the Lord is understanding with us. He's not demanding, but He is understanding. You know what? We often judge what we don't understand. Have you ever done that? You know, I've been guilty of that. Just maybe without even saying anything. You can look at somebody and you may judge something. Yeah, cast judgment in your heart, and but you don't understand. We don't understand. You know, with the wrong perception, we cast judgment sometimes.
So let me insert a story here. It's a true story that I read about a young girl, and she was going to school, and we judge what we don't understand, and people judged her because she had a little odor to her, and didn't have the nicest clothes and things like this, but they didn't realize that they had no facilities, and so for her to take a bath, she had to get in a wash tub and draw water, and there was no private room. She had several brothers and sisters, and so she had no way to bathe. And, it was so embarrassing for her, but they didn't understand her situation. And when understanding came, the gym teacher allowed her to come in early, and she was allowed to be able to shower in the school facility.
Gave her deodorant and everything.
It wasn't because that's who she was. It was because that's what her circumstance was.
Exactly. So I like this one too. Proverbs 17:27 says, "He that has knowledge spares his words." You know how many times we can just throw words out there, but he said, if you have knowledge, you're going to spare your words.
Amen.
And a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Everybody say excellent.
Excellent.
Remember what I've told you before is that perfection makes us look good, but excellence makes God look good because He is good. It's the throw beyond.
What
excellence.
does excellent mean?
Excellent here means valuable, rare, and precious.
Amen.
This is what it means in this scripture.
To have an excellent spirit.
Well, and of course, this is a familiar one. I don't think I even sent it to Matt. Thank God for Matt. He keeps those scriptures up for you. But Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, you can all quote this. And he says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." So we can't go by our understanding, right? Because I've heard you say, we can, our emotions can control us. I mean, in a sense, like it can dictate to us, and they're meant to experience life and not to dictate to our life. But so he said, don't lean to your understanding, your own thought process. Acknowledge it. Look, he's had another big day.
Sorry, I was doing my best not to.
You know what happens though when someone yawns? It's catchy. I can just hear them yawn. I feel one coming on right now.
You understand.
I feel one coming on.
You understand what that means, right?
That means he's tired, but yeah, he's going to get rejuvenated.
Oh no, they're yawning. They're yawning on the.
It does. It hits me. I can be talking on the phone and hear somebody
That's what's making me yawn. Y'all sending those yawns.
So you understand. You may not. How about this? You may not understand what you're going through, but he does. And He knows how to get us through, doesn't He?
Amen.
So when we don't lean to our understanding, but we acknowledge Him in all of our ways. So it made me think about Job, because he didn't understand what he was going through.
No.
He didn't understand it. He loved God, and he was devoted to God.
He made the statement, he said, "I would that God would appear before me as a judge, for then I would plead my case." He didn't know what was going on. And then later in the book of Job, when God answers him, then Job's response, then because when God answers him, man, He answers him strongly. And he says that, I'll tell you what, there's a story tied to that with me personally.
Yes, I would connect it to that. That's
let me share the story. I know some of you've heard it, but just kick back, you're going to hear it again. So Debbie and I were about to get married, and I needed a job. I was after a job, and I'd gone in, and
because that's what you need when you get married. A job.
I'd gone in, and I was confident in the interview, and I was sure I was going to get that job.
Didn't you even tell the man, if you
I
hire
said,
me, you will not regret it?
I said, you hire me and
Was
you
you a
won't
little
regret
cocky?
it. And I wasn't being cocky.
Just
I was being
overconfident. Yeah.
And so it was about, 3 days later, I get a phone call and it's them. And I go get the phone.
You're
and I'm all excited. And they called me up and they said, we just called to let you know that you didn't get the job. Someone with better qualifications got it. And I thought, man, I have never gotten a phone call from someone to tell me somebody better than I am got the job. And
It's
so
like,
I
usually
was,
they just don't call you.
I was so upset. And I remember I went to the back bedroom I was at Debbie's parents' house, and I went to the back bedroom, and I was frustrated, and I grabbed I just fell across the bed and grabbed this pillow.
Yeah, but before you did that,
what?
the night I saw how you were acting, or I saw that.
Oh,
I can see by his expression that phone call wasn't.
And he wasn't
celebrating it too much.
She was so understanding and caring. And she looked at me.
I was 16.
She looked at me and
barely.
she looked at me and said, "Didn't get the job, did you?"
And
And that's all she said, man. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? I'm getting ready to marry her. No, but it was, God knew what I needed, and I didn't need somebody.
I should have been more nice
to
than
have.
that.
I didn't need someone showing me pity, or I didn't need someone, saying, "Oh, it's going to be okay." Because this was something that God needed to address in me, and I fell across that bed, and I grabbed this pillow. And I went to squeeze it real hard, saying, "God, where are you at?" And when I squeezed that pillow, they had babies at the house.
It was my little sister.
Yeah, her little sister was probably 2 years old at the time or something. And so there's a baby bottle.
He doesn't know it.
And I did not see it. And when I grabbed that pillow and I squeezed it, and God, where are you? And man, oatmeal shot out of that bottle all in my eye, across my face. I'm wiping it out of my face. I'm thinking, really, God, and so now I'm even more frustrated. And I thought, okay, God, you said in your word there's comfort. And I grabbed it up and flipped it, grabbed that Bible and flipped it open, and I turned it open to Job. And this is what it said.
It just fell on that.
It just opened up to that, and the first words I read was God addressing Job, and he said, "Gird yourself up now like a man. I will demand of thee, and answerest thou me." And I'm telling you, and he started saying, "Where were you at when I spoke this world into existence? Where were you at? Can you cause the morning or the sun to come up? Can you stop the waves?" And I just started reading all that, and then Job's response was that he said, "I repented, for I uttered things that were too marvelous for me to understand."
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, I dropped down on my knees and just started repenting before God. And
then you understood.
And I understood. And I think it was by the end of that week, I had a job. They called me back and hired me to another position that was, it didn't have anything to do with accounting. It ended up leading to supervisor. So it was, God's got a way, but he's going to,
he's going to teach you in the process. And sometimes too, understand that when you're going through a test, when you're taking a test, the teacher's always silent.
Right.
You have time for questions later. They're not going to leave the room usually when you're taking a test. But so understand he's still there, and he's going to give you your answer.
Amen.
So I like this scripture as well. So Hebrews 2:18 says, "For in that he himself has suffered being tempted, he is able to," now this word is called succor. It's not secure.
Not secure.
I listened to it today. Yeah, you know how you go on your dictionary, and I made sure I was going to say this right. Succor. But it means he succor them, succor. Not succor.
No, we're not calling you a succor.
No, you're not. Them that are tempted. Now, that word succor is succor. Okay, it means to bring aid. AID, or relieve, to bring aid or relief. So what he's saying, he understands because he was tempted in all like manner as we are. He understands. And so he's able to bring relief to you.
Amen.
And give you that way of escape. So if you're trying to, here's another thing too. If you're trying to comfort someone, maybe someone died, you're at a funeral, and you can't truly say, I understand. There he goes again.
I'm sorry.
We can say I understand if we've been there. And I was just thinking how that I can't tell you how many older men, like in our church or different, wherever we've been, and they've had their fingers nearly cut off and re-sewn back on. Well, then I've got my fingers. I've got a whole conversation about, I remember here because I can understand what they went through. And so when someone says they understand, it's because they can relate to you.
Right.
And God and Jesus is saying, I can understand you. I can relate. I understand you perfectly. And he loves us, once again, unconditionally. So 2 Corinthians 1:4 says, he comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort others when they are troubled, so we can understand, right? Mm-hmm. We will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. So I want to say this, that he's able to comfort because he understands, once again. So if you break down the word understand, in the Old English, under means to stand in the midst of. He's standing in the midst of you. Also, if you take the word under, it's a compound word, right? Under and stand. So stand under. You can use it that way too, like it to hold you up. You know what I'm saying?
Propping you up. Propping
you up. But the first meaning, the Old English is that he's standing in the midst of. Now this is great. Philippians 4:7 says, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep our hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. So his peace, it surpasses our understanding, our intellect. So he's saying, when you have peace, look, when you experience the peace of God, it's beyond our understanding. Right now, when you've seen a lot of fear in this time that we're going through, but yet how many of you have experienced the peace of God? Right. Put a heart up right now, would you? If you have experienced God's peace and you're not afraid because you know that he is with you, that's the peace that goes beyond our understanding. Come on, throw some hearts up there if that is who you are, that you understand and you feel his peace in this time.
I was thinking about, I spoke with someone before that had lost their spouse, and they told me, they said, God...
Oh, look at all the hearts.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They told me, they said, God has just given me such peace through this.
Yes.
And so, and I thought about that, a peace that passes all understanding. God is able to grant you the peace you need.
That's right.
When you need it to be able to let you continue to move forward. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, that there's not pain there, but what it means is you're not alone, that he puts his arms around you, he holds you, he keeps you, and he allows you to continue to be able to move forward.
So do you remember the songs? You remember the old hymns?
Oh, I get to sing?
Yeah, he gets to sing tonight. So I remember when I was a kid growing up, a couple of these songs that had that word in it. We'll understand it all by and by. You remember that one? Or cheer up, my brother, live in the sun. You got to get some southern twang there. We'll understand it all by and by. So we got to cheer up. Even though you don't understand right now, you let him fill you with that peace, because you know what? It goes beyond our understanding, but at the same time, it's like there's that knowing. There's that knowing that everything's going to be, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I knew. I understood she did. So
this is a good one, guys.
What I want to show you is, and I know that's going, honey, my arm's connected to that.
I know, but I was going to tell you that,
so
that Matt looks forward. Yeah.
Okay, so this is. I know you're reading it backwards on screen, but there's nothing I can do about that. But this is Holy Bible. But I got to thinking about what happens to us when it comes to understanding, and we're trying to understand, right? And we attempt to understand, but the question becomes, do we really understand? And I know sometimes when we go to Scripture and we're trying to understand it, that we end up, we take it and we open it up and all we do is draw a blank. It's like, man, I'm not getting anything. Oh, sorry. Move your head over just a little. No, I
just don't understand.
I'm not getting anything out of that. But when you begin to trust God and you begin to, pray and say, God, open my understanding, God will do that. He'll begin to show you what you couldn't see before. Let me see. I'm going to stand up a little bit, okay? So he'll begin to show you what you couldn't see before, and you begin to feel like, okay, it's starting to come together now. But I'm telling you, when you open your heart and you let God breathe on you, and then it becomes more than a book, but you understand this is His Word to you, then when you open it up, guess what happens? Man, it gets so exciting, and so you end up saying, wow, take a look at what God's doing, and you recognize that God's got a purpose for your life. So you've got to ask yourself a question: do I want to draw a big blank, or do I want God to touch me with just a little understanding? Or, wait a minute, let me do that again. Do I want God just to touch me with a little understanding, or do I want God to breathe the breath of life on me so I understand and I'm able to enjoy my journey? It's all about understanding.
Right.
Amen.
Understanding that He is in control and that everything's going to be all right. Cheer up, my brother. Live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by.
We may start a group.
No.
I love you guys. Let's have a word of prayer together. Can we do that? Father, we thank you, Lord, for understanding. God, that it's your intent for us to understand that, Lord, you treasure when we begin to dig you out, Father, when we begin to search you out, so that we have understanding. And you told us above everything to get understanding. So we thank you, Lord, that you bring that to us. I just pray, God, that anyone that's walking through a difficult time, God, situations that they don't understand, that they'll trust you with it, God, and I know you're going to bring understanding to them.
And peace.
In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
It may not happen. There's a song that said, He may not come when you want him, but He's right on time. And so you may not have the understanding right now, but you'll have it. You'll have it in due time. So it's going to be all right. Amen. Hey, we love you guys. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night. And then Sunday, everybody pray for sunshine. We need to pray that rain move out of our forecast, and that God gives us sunshine so we can meet in the parking lot. All right. Love you all. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.